Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to Spirit Speakeasy. I'm Joy Giovanni, Joyful Medium. I'm a working psychic medium, energy healer, and spiritual gifts mentor. This podcast is like a seat at the table in a secret club, but with mediums, mystics, and the spiritual luminaries of our time. So come behind the velvet ropes with me and see inside my world as I chat insider style with profoundly gifted souls. We go deep, share juicy stories, laugh a lot, and it wouldn't be a speakeasy without great insider secrets and tips. You might even learn that you have some gifts of your own. So step inside the Spirit Speakeasy. Hey, beautiful soul, welcome back or welcome in for another episode of Spirit Speakeasy. I am so excited, as I am for most of these episodes, but today we are going to be doing our biannual chat with an amazing astrologer that has become a great friend of the pod and who is a friend of mine, Sheetal Story. And she's going to be sharing the astrology, what we need to know as far as the themes based on the astrology, the energy that we can expect in the first half of 2025. So we're going to be looking at January through June of 2025. And those of you that are a little bit in the know that I have been a bit under the weather, and I was really under the weather at the time of this recording. So I'm coming in later to record the intro and outro, and I'm a little quiet during the episode, but it's for two reasons. One, because I was a little under the weather, but two, because I really wanted to respect Sheetal's time, and we had just a limited time together on the day that we were recording. So I wanted her to be able to get as much through to us as possible. It's so fascinating to me how these themes really tie in with the themes that you're going to be hearing next week in the 9 themes for a 9-year podcast. So really all of this energy ties together and helps us in its own ways. So without any ado, I want to really just jump in and get this information, this heads up, this what to expect in the potential, in the energy, and how we can best use that energy, right? You know that we're not doom and gloom here. Sheetal and I actually talk about that a bit in the episode. We're using this energy to give us a heads up or to help us orchestrate things to the best that it can possibly be. It's not to hinder you in any way. It's not to put fear in you in any way, but rather to give you some comfort. I actually am someone who likes information and finds comfort in being able to know little bits of heads up and things, right? Like, for example, if you're going to take a train and you know that train is often delayed or often ends up making lots of extra stops, wouldn't you want to know that so you could plan to, like, I don't know, bring a snack or let whoever is picking you up know that you might be late, I guess, right? I don't, maybe it's only me. Let me know how you feel about that. But let's get right into it. I am so grateful and honored and excited to share this conversation with Master Astrologer Sheetal Story. Welcome back or welcome in for another episode of Spirit Speakeasy. We are back with our tradition, our biannual reading with Sheetal Story. I'm going to give you her quick bio, and then I'm going to let her just give us all of the astrology predictions for January 2025 through May, the first half of the year. Sheetal Story, if you've been here for a while, you know this amazing soul. She is a psychic medium, a professional certified astrologer, and a grief support counselor, plus a law of attraction master coach. Sheetal's mission is to help heart-centered people cultivate and strengthen their intuition, to trust and use it every day so they can live their most aligned and soul-led purposeful life. Intuition is the compass of the soul, and she teaches that your soul always knows the way. The more you learn to trust your intuition and the flow with that energy and the way that life presents it, the more that life will open up the most magical opportunities for growth and abundance. Sheetal has been here with us before. Her website is sheetalstory.com, and I'm going to link everything for you in the show notes. But with no ado at all, I'm so grateful to have you here, Sheetal.
Thank you for having me back. This has been such a fun, doing this with you last year, the first half of the zodiac year and then the second half of the year. It is wonderful to kind of talk it out with you as well. I love your insights, and you know enough astrology to be dangerous, so I just love being on your show and talking astrology with you too. So What an honor to be back. Thank you.
Well, and I go back to these episodes just as almost like a little bit of a tether to kind of figure out, okay, where are we in space and time? What do I need to like be preparing ahead, or what can I know? So I think that's just always my question as a human. What can I know? And it's one of my favorite things about you is that you are always on board for what can we know?
Yes. And how can we use it to live our very best life?
Yeah.
I think that the reason why I am an astrologer on the internet is that I just see so much garbage out there. And I'm like,
Yes.
we need to reframe this and talk about what the opportunities are here for this versus this is bad. Mercury retrograde. Okay. Yeah. There's, hard things with it, but it's also meant to slow you down so you can
Yeah.
recess, review, realign. Like everything is happening for your highest good. And I really hate these doomsday astrologers that are like, oh, take heed. No, we get to use all of these transits for our highest and best. So I love illuminating the potentials. And that's why I became a Western astrologer. I think I've really been noticing, especially on social media, the rise of Vedic astrology,
Hmm.
which is still a good system in itself. It's
Yeah.
just very destiny oriented and fatalistic. Like, this is going to happen to you. This is going to happen to you. And Western astrology is more open. It's more you have free will and you get to use these energies and themes for your highest and best. So there's no bad system. I've been reading a lot of people have been sending me posts about Vedic and, oh, actually Pluto is not, in Aquarius, it's in Capricorn. I'm like, if you use a different house cusp and you use different um, zodiac posts where they are in the sky as Vedic does, then yes, that is there. But in Western astrology, actually, Pluto is moving into Aquarius at the time of our taping, which is November 2024. And if you don't believe me, just ask any late degree Capricorn or early degree Aquarian. They are dying, going through it right now. So, yeah, if you don't believe me, ask the signs and see. Trust the energy versus people just spewing, garbage. So,
That's one of
thank
the
you
things
for
I
having
love
me.
about astrology too, is you can just see. I mean, there's been so many times when I was less into it that I'd be like, okay, what the heck is going on? Because all my electronics are, blipping and my emails aren't going through. And then I would look as, investigation of what's happening. And I think that's a wonderful way to use it. But if we can have a heads up in advance so that we can
100%.
better use the energy, like you're saying, like, hey, who doesn't need that?
And I feel like it gives you like a why, to things going on. Like I have had so many tech glitches. Like as a Virgo, Mercury is my ruling planet. Mercury is the planet of communication, of community, coordination, of
Yeah.
thoughts and thinking. And so when Mercury goes retrograde, it really like it puts me behind because nothing is going smoothly for me. Like literally this webcam was not working earlier this week for 3 days. I ordered a new webcam that's
Oh,
delayed in
that's
shipping
funny.
because of the Canada Post. Again, Canada Post being communication and mail is on
Yep.
strike right now. Mercury is retrograde at the time of this taping. So, you just kind of like, you can't make this stuff up. You see those memes of like astrology knew, like the world
Yeah.
was shocked, but astrologers are like, no, we knew this was going to happen. And then even with the
Exactly.
election that just happened, given the astrology and Pluto moving back into Capricorn, which is about the patriarchy, old systems, bringing up the things that need to be fixed. I 100% was betting that Trump was going to win the election because we need that stuff to come to the surface for one final, almost like a clearing out, a plunging of the poop, if you will,
Yeah.
to bring that to the surface for us to see all of it, to heal all of it. So it's been really interesting to witness as a Canadian, looking
Hmm.
into the US market, but it is affecting us too. And we have our own version
Totally.
of Trump up here as well, who is also
Yes.
slated to win the next election. So it's very interesting to notice these trends, that are going around the world. And
Yeah.
astrology works. That branch of astrology is called mundane astrology, where
Hmm.
they look at how the astrology affects politics, geopolitical movements, things like that around the world. And it's fascinating to me. This is why I watch the news, because I was like, oh, yeah, that was predicted. Oh, that's how that's coming out. Sometimes
Yeah.
there's no, you can't predict all the things. Like like even with COVID, we knew as astrologers something big was happening for 2020. And I'm going to say that there's something equally as big happening for 2025
Oh, girl.
because of, but again, it's
I've been
for
having so much
change.
anxiety, so I've been
No,
waiting to talk to you because
no.
I'm like,
Well,
okay, tell me something.
well, we know anxiety is a fearful anticipation of the
Yes,
future, right?
for
And we
sure.
want to just stay present and know that we have self advocacy and we have power to make our lives what we need it to be. So, even in your life, and I'm going to just acknowledge that even though I'm an East Indian woman, I do have privilege because I do have financial means and I am married. And so there's a lot of things that I have privilege in. So I get to use my privilege to help others as well and know that we have advocacy to make our lives what we want it to be. Yes, we're going to be influenced by certain things of the world, but ultimately, and that's why I'm also a manifestation coach, is because the psychology of positivity and optimism gets to change and create our lives too. Right. So, yes, we're working within these paradigms and these shifting winds, but you and I know, and anyone who's listening to this podcast knows that you've come here with a mission and a purpose to shine the light and be the light for the darkness that's coming. So we can change that and up level our whole humanity. We're here as that. Your soul chose to come here at this time. There's no such thing as extra souls. So we are here for that mission. And you're not in it by yourself,
You probably don't know this just because we have been friends for a long time, but we live in such different places. I'm in San Diego where I am. I'm maybe 20 minutes from the Mexican border. And so a lot of these themes and topics are very sticky here. We're a very mixed community of all kinds of diverse individuals. And it's
scary.
It's hot and there's fire.
Yes. And it's scary for a lot of people. There's a lot of saber rattling and a lot of rhetoric, and we're going to see how that comes to be. But we get to protect each other. We get to create opportunities. And we also want to remember that if life is handing us, something we don't want, it's because we're not really open to what this could mean in the future. Right. So even if, I'm being sent to another country, or I'm being limited in opportunities, or I'm running because I'm trying to protect something, I'm trying to create a life. Like if I was a Mexican, you don't know what the term is, but illegally, like in the US, or, what's it called? Not a dreamer, but anyways, that being in the US, illegally, then there is an opportunity. There's always that fear of being deported, but there's also the opportunity of, can you earn your freedom, or is there another way in, or can you maybe make it up to Canada and declare, whatever it is. Like there's always ways. Like my parents are immigrants to Canada. They came through proper channels and got their cards and things like that. But there's always a way. I feel like if you have it in your heart, don't stop until you get to where you want to go, and know that even if you are, deported, or there is something, you are separated from your family, that path to coming back is part of your life's mission and evolution of soul. You will make it back. People are reunited all the time with their people. Like, stay true to your mission and don't stop. Don't stop.
Well, and time's a funny thing. She's an interesting mistress, I guess. So it's like, that's why I'm so interested to see, based on your wisdom with astrology, what we can be preparing for too, because things look different with time. And
well, I think time gives us perspective, in every year that we have some of these transits, we're getting more and more information around them. So, there's where prediction comes in. Predictive astrology is a bit of I'd say a battleground in astrology, because does it need to be predictive? And then why are we predicting time? And can we just use the statistics to say, statistically, every time this aspect happens, these are some of the themes that come up? And that's where I like to play. It's, can I foretell that Trump was going to win the election with certainty? I probably wouldn't have bet money on it because I'm very cautious with my money, but I was telling people I think Trump is going to win. So just because the astrology was really, and you could feel it too, right? There's still more here. It's just wild, again, from a Canadian's perspective, looking at this and thinking, wow, like, I don't think this would have happened in the 60s or 70s, because people thought that if you went to jail or you had charges against you, you were not fit to be president. And this day and age, they're like, no. Or you had a reality show, you know what I mean? Like, no, you can do that. So it's a really interesting era now. And as well, there's a lot of mistrust, right, in the collective right now. And we noticed that especially during COVID, right? Mistrust for science. Everybody used to use science as like, oh, this is scientifically based and this is science says this. And people are like, science can be manipulated. So can statistics can be manipulated.
Yeah.
So, what are we really believing in and who do we trust? And I think that's going to become really, really something of a theme during 2025, because there can be a lot of murkiness coming forward, and especially with AI, it is so challenging to see, is this even a true post? Is this a real movie coming out? Did this actually happen? There's so much now pictures that are being falsified, even like nature. I love, like, I'm a bit of a nature geek, in that I like to watch like National Geographic, and I'm on National Geographic Facebook sites. And there was one, I was like, there is no way this picture is real. Like, it looked and felt fake, but the blurb about it was like, no, this actually happened. This is this. And I started to look down in the comments, and it was, sure enough, it's a mix of two pictures, and AI did them. So it was two different places in the world to make this really fantastical picture. And there was somebody in the comments says like, actually, these are two different places in the world. You're supposed to be National Geographic. What the hell are you doing here? Like, and everybody just started to jump on that bandwagon of like being authentic and calling out the facts with it, which I just love that. So I think there's still, I think authenticity, facts, fact checking is going to be a real theme as well for 2025. And I think when we're seeing people, podcast influencers, people who are, have the ear of many people, is that we're going to be craving more of that authenticity and craving more of that saying it like it is. Before we started to record, we were talking about how I've just coming out of burnout. I might be still a little bit in it. I lost my voice for 10 days. I was sick for 5 weeks. And I've been talking about that on all of my posts and really sharing about it. And my social media has been blowing up with people saying, oh my God, girl, me too. Or I'm feeling it too. Or I've been there. Or, what do you do? Or how is it going? Or, just checking in even on like, are you okay? And you even asked me when we come in, like, are you okay? How are you doing? And I just
I just told you I've been sick for a week too. So it's like,
it's starting for you. It's a weird one going around. But I think too, it's really interesting. I mean, we're in cold season, to be fair, but viruses also clear out, like the body holds emotion. So when we're in really phlegmy, like the cold that I had, there was a lot. If this is TMI for people, I'm super sorry, but life is life. It's phlegmy, like so phlegmy, right? Like the boogers and the phlegm and everything coming out. And I'm like, my body is purging something right now. And it was really interesting to just be in witness of that and just give as much nourishment as I could to my body as it did its thing. And then I lost my voice for 10 days because I was trying so hard to push through and get my podcast done and all the things. And my body's like, okay, fine, we're going to take your voice now too, because you're not listening. So it was really interesting, even when you notice these sicknesses coming around and people not feeling well, we're in a time of recalibration right now. Winter is a time of that, but society has really trying to condition that out of us. And that is a natural cycle, which I think that is also a theme of 2025. I think we'll be coming back to natural rhythms, more nature, more natural remedies as well, and getting back to more traditional times too. So it's an interesting time, 2025. Shall we get into it?
Yes, please.
So I think when we started out last year, we talked about the numerology of 2024, and it was an 8-year, and 2025 is a 9-year. So you just add up the numbers and you get to a 9. And that 9-year is a culmination, a finish point. So for anyone who doesn't follow numerology, it goes up to 9 and then it resets back to 1. So there's no such thing as a 0.
I'll have a whole full episode on the 9 themes for the 9 year. So I'm so excited that you're talking about
Perfect, because it goes into what we're going to be talking about in the astrology as well. So I won't go into the depths of that episode. So that's perfect. Please. But the 9-year is a culmination, a finish point. It's things coming to light that you are now sort of, when you started it back 9 years ago, which I think was 2007, I think. No, that would have been 2017.
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
2017, that'd be
16,
about,
17 in there
yeah,
somewhere.
yeah. So I was looking up the stuff yesterday as well because I was like, oh, I should probably print this out. No, I did not print it out. But 9 years ago, we
Yeah.
started a cycle, and you're finishing that cycle now. And it was 2017. So in 2017, whatever you started, because I was looking into it, I'm like, oh, my son would have been grade 4. We had kids transitioning school, and I was just starting to get more and more into this. So now you're coming to an ending of this cycle. So what happens is friendships, a lot of friendships ending this year, a lot of cycles finishing, a lot of just being done with doing things in an old pattern that's no longer serving you. And sometimes that can appear like laryngitis and having to, really disengage from everything for 10 days and kind of say, okay, why am I doing these things the way I've been doing them? Like even my newsletter, I send out a newsletter every week. I've been doing that for 3 years. And because I don't have a podcast like normally I have recorded a astro forecast every week, there wasn't one to send out. And so my coach is like, don't send one out. I'm like, I have been sending it out without fail for 3 years. Are you telling me to break my stretch? Like that feels so wrong.
You're a
And she's
Sag.
like,
It's impossible.
Sag moon. I was like, oh, I want to Virgo. I'm like, I
Oh,
need
you're
to be
Virgo. That's right.
meticulous, right? I'm committed to committed.
Yeah.
So that was really hard. And she's like, why are you even sending out the newsletter? Is it even actually serving your audience? Is that really driving people to the service that you want to provide? And I was like, I don't know. I just do things sometimes for the sake of doing them because we've been doing them for so long,
Yeah.
right? It's like, even when do you brush your teeth during the day? If you brush your teeth during that time every day for how many years? Why then? Why not before? Why take a shower when you do? All of those things. We just do things because we're creatures of habit. So the 9 year is really going to be asking you to finish up those patterns to be, okay, really what's serving you, what's not serving you. So a 9 year can be really beautiful in terms of like noticing how far you've come. There can be a lot of reward, a lot of accolades, a lot of, in terms of, understanding, like almost feeling like a promotion. You're being recognized for your service, or that the thing that you've done. You might even just need to recognize yourself. And on the flip side, it can be a lot of endings and things going away and realizing this pattern is no longer serving you. And in any ending, there's inherently a feeling of loss, even if it's initiated by you. So as a grief counselor, just give yourself space to be sad. And it's okay if, friendship is ending, even though it's the best thing for you, it will, still serving you. There's still been years that served you in some way. And you can be grateful for those days too. So that's a big one. Yeah. So that's a kind of a big theme. And then for 2025, and I mentioned this in our 2024 podcast, is that 2025 is a huge year of change of energy. So the 5 outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, are all changing signs within the same year. So Pluto has already just moved into Aquarius for the final time and will be there for another 20 years. So that has already shifted. Jupiter has shifted in Gemini, but will also shift into Aries into Cancer. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer in the coming year as well. So all the other planets are shifting into new signs, and some will dip in and dip out, but still all that energy changing. So the outer planets represent our interpersonal skills, or how we interact with society. Okay. So that society shift, and you think about, even what we're facing with global warming, natural resources, the economy, how we take care of ourselves, Medicare, sickness, all these things, all these new viruses and stuff that are coming out. Like, this is a really interesting time for us as a collective to be there for each other now more than ever. So these outer planets changing signs, this means this energy is all shifting at the same time. That's usually we have, it's a doozy. You're right. It's like, because it's normally we need little shifts in and out. So there is little bits of reprieve throughout. It's not just bam, we're going to be dropped into this new paradigm. We are birthing it very slowly throughout the year. But by the end of the year, the energy will be very drastically different than how we are starting it. So, as we start out the year in January, this is going to be the first year in many, many years since 2020 that Mercury is not retrograde as of January 1st. So,
Interesting.
so that's a bit of a like, okay, fine, because Mercury rules our thought processing, communication, relationships, close relationships, community, coordination. So, when Mercury is retrograde, we don't feel like we're moving forward. It's a time of review, reassess, and realigning our thoughts, our patterns. What are we doing? What are we thinking about? What are we bringing about?
Mm-hmm.
And Mercury not being retrograde on January 1st makes us feel like we want to move forward. We want to think about new things. We want to do new things. And Mars is retrograde at that time. So Mars only goes retrograde once every 18 months, and Mars just happens to be retrograde over the new year. So Mars is the planet of motivation, passion, drive. It's our egoic will to move forward, and it is going to be retrograde in Sagittarius to begin with, so a water or fire sign, and then moving back into, sorry, it's in Leo right now. So Leo, and then moving back into Cancer in the new year. So that Leo energy is very fiery. It wants to move forward. It's leadership. It's initiatory. And then when it moves back into Cancer, it's more watery into our homes.
Yeah.
It is. And but Mars in Cancer is caring about the family. You know, our home is the highest priority. We're wanting connection over and safety over forward momentum and doing things. The egoic will, Mars doesn't really like to be in Cancer because it's not a sign of moving forward and getting things done. It's like very nurturing, intuitive, very sensitive placement. So we're going to be starting off the year not in this feeling of going for it and let's get some things done and let's manifest and let's dream big and let's go after our goals. That's going to happen more so after February, because that's when February 23rd is when Mars goes direct. So we literally are going to have these 3 months starting December, January, February of Mars retrograde. And again, Mars is our passion, egoic will. So we're not going to feel motivated to move forward. So if you start out the year and you're like, all right, it's a year, I'm, a little bit Eeyore energy there, then just know you're on track. It's okay to have a slow start. And because of that watery energy that's inherently going to come in with that placement, can we find safety in the way to move forward? So that might be really, what does safety feel like for you? Your money, your home, decluttering the home, being inside of yourself, more so shoring up your inner foundations. Therapy, it'd be a really great time. Motivation for therapy, doing some personal development work or any personal development workshops that are coming, spiritual development, that intuition connection piece, going to be really, really a good place for anyone who is at that time. And I think
to your point, there are things we can do. It's kind of what you were saying at the top. There are things, while it might not be the most powerful time to like get your sleigh and reindeer ready, like it is going to be a time to like do this other bucket of things or focus on more foundational things, it sounds like.
Again, I love your perspective, because the energy is presenting for something else. Like it's not trying to screw us over, it is trying to present another opportunity for us. So Mars will be, and just looking up the degrees, it is going to be in Leo when we start out the year, but it's retrograde Leo. So Leo is about our voice, our mission, what's our special sauce that we want to add to the world, our voice in the world. And so it's when it's retrograde, it's like, what is your special sauce? Where is your passion and purpose? Have you discovered your why? Sometimes we have a why and our values that light the way. Those change as we get older. Even I recently went on a huge trip to London, my first time to Europe, and I came back like fully shifted, because I feel like even my values have changed. And I was doing a little values exercise today, and I couldn't believe, I was like, well, of course, why has this never been in my top 3 values? Like, it's just interesting, so this is going to be the work I think that's going to be needed at the beginning of the year, because that's going to be the sustaining force for you, as you move through the year of your purpose, your why, your mission. What's your special? What do you want to contribute to this world at large? Because that question is coming. It's coming.
Because then it's like, okay, as we're assessing and going into our intuition and maybe reevaluating, like you said, some of these core values that we have, some of our focus, then when the energy moves forward in a way that it's time to take that action, well, more clarity is what it sounds like. could be a potential of what's, useful about this time. One of the many things, I'm sure.
It is. And I think, what is luck? It's opportunity meeting preparedness. So this is the preparedness that's coming up. This is the really getting clean on the inside of your whys, your clarity, taking care of your body. Mars is typically rules the body, which is Aries. The first house. And so this is now, how are we going to move forward with our body? And so that, cleaning up the inside, cleaning up your house, your physical, place of where you live.
Like
so
dialing in your health and wellness across the board.
Correct.
In every area of your life.
Yeah. Decluttering your home. Like there's lots of things you can do that aren't involved with forward momentum. It's more so, I think of like the archer pulling the arrow back. It's like that pulling back requires strength. And then as you let it go, you're ready. You're ready to move forward. So that's going to be after February 23rd. But on January 11th, we have a really important episode that's happening, a transit, and it's the North Node entering Pisces. So the North Node and the South Node are opposite each other in the zodiac or in the sky, and it represents the North Node of the Moon and the South Node of the Moon. So they're kind of invisible points, if you will, on the Moon, but they represent a really important part of the collective, and it's our karmic destiny. So the North Node is our karmic destiny, where we're going to, and the South Node is our karmic past, where we are coming from, or what we are releasing or healing or learning from the past to bring something new into the future. So these nodes move every 18 months into new nodes or into new signs, and it goes backwards through the zodiac. So right now, at the time of this taping, the nodes are in Aries, Libra. And so the North Node is in Aries, which is our entrepreneurship, our courageous will to move forward. What's that spark of life, right? Your soul's fire. Why did you come here, right? Your purpose, your mission, Aries. And then Libra is on the South Node, is where have you been people pleasing? Where are you minimizing yourself? Where are you giving away your power so you can be in relationships with others that aren't really even serving you? And that has been such a huge theme for all the readings that I've had recently as well, of like, where can we step into our power, but yet, not lose everybody in our lives, like there's so much fear of judgment. So that balancing act. So until we get to there, like we need this step first, and then it's going to move back into Pisces, Virgo. So Pisces as a North Node is how can we really live our spiritual attainment? How can we get to spiritual enlightenment? Being there for everybody, compassion, empathy, one love, really taking care of one another. And then the Virgo South Node is letting go of perfectionism, letting go of having to know all the details, being anal about getting it right.
What's so interesting is we had a long talk about this last December, because you were explaining to me that part of Libra being in that South Node was not so much the justice aspect of it, but looking at what have our foreparents, established that we no longer agree to, that's no longer serving the collective. So it's so interesting to think about Virgo in that position now of, okay, double down on that. What structures, what order, what organization, where are we clamping too tight for a way that's not maybe serving everyone in the highest and greatest good for the long term? No souls left behind, kind of a vibe with that Pisces combo, it sounds like.
And another Virgo trait that is going to come up here big is also judgment.
Okay.
Judgment and comparison, because Virgo likes to be right. We're a family of Virgos. I'm a Virgo, and we Google each other all the time, right? And it's not like mean or, it's not trying to prove each other right, but more so just trying to like be what's true. What's the facts here? We're very factually driven. And as Virgos, we like to get things done. We like to be organized and disciplined, but too much Virgo shuts down the intuition. You're out of your brain, out of your spirit into your brain. So we need both, right? Like we need to have the details and the doing, but it has to come from our spirit, our intuition, with that compassion and love, and doing it for humanity, not for self. So we can get caught up in the Virgo side of doing and details and getting it right. Perfectionism. I think we're going to really see the collective healing perfectionism. I have even with this cold that I've been kind of still moving through, my brain feels kind of foggy. So even if like I noticed, I was even thinking as we're recording this, like I said Cancer, but it was actually not that, but I corrected myself and I'm like, oh, someone's going to think about that. But maybe, you know what? It's healing perfectionism and I corrected it in here and it's going to be fine. So it's that kind of talking yourself through it. I mean, as a Virgo and a healing perfectionist myself, I constantly talk myself through that I was like, okay, you know what? There was a spelling mistake in that. Whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And people, it's so interesting because when I start to have those thoughts, I inevitably will get an email back from someone. You had a spelling mistake in your
Girl,
subject.
That's literally what I was just thinking. Like, oh no, because it's that person that's going to message me and say, "Did you know?"
And she is me, right? She is
Yeah.
me. She's just reflecting back to me
Totally.
that part of myself that I was like, okay. So I actually will send back emails now thinking, thank you so much. I'm
Yeah.
healing perfectionism in myself and I invite you to do the same. So, you know,
Interesting.
yeah, it is interesting. And I mean, do they unfollow me after? I don't know. But it's really just a true invite to just say, it's okay. It's okay to have, you know, a spelling mistake here and there. And can we fix it in the future? Great, for sure. You know, if there's something I had a launch that I have done for about 4 years, and it's the same kind of challenge launch that I've done for 4 years. And only I got a new team member that signed up for it because she wanted to see how it works out. And she's like, "Did you notice you duplicated page 2?" And I went, I have been doing this challenge for 4 years. No one has ever told me that I had page 2 duplicated.
Oh,
She's like, really? Yeah, people are just like, all right. You know what I mean? Oh, I might have had a printer error or, you know, Sheetal might not have noticed or whatever. No one has ever mentioned it to me until this, which is great. You know, I'm happy to fix it. You know, we deleted it and made it right. But so interesting that perfectionism and that sort of I've released most of it, I think, from my life. So I'm going to be interesting to notice in the collective how that's going to play out. So that starts on January 11th. That's going to be there for 18 months as it moves backwards through that zodiac. So there's going to be a lot of shifting towards spiritual growth, compassion, intuition, and letting go of rigid structures and embracing flow. So that kind of step by step by step where I have to do it this way, this way, this way. I just had a client that I was talking to and she's like, I can't launch anything until I have it fully completed. And I said, but why not just make it with your people when you're launching? Because that way you're tailoring it to the need and you then it actually is being made for your ideal client. And she's like, no, I can't. It doesn't, I get too stressed out. So that feeling of like, can you just go with the flow? Can you create it as you go along? Sometimes people need that structure, but then she's going to be redoing it anyways to meet the need of the client. So
interesting.
You know, noticing how you work, noticing where you adhere to rigidity or structure. I need to have it done in this way. So Virgo as well, I think there's also rules OCD and having things done in a particular way and must have it done this way. So there can be, I think there's going to be a lot of healing in the collective as well about must have it done this way. And can we do more things out of order, you know, which I think would make people itchy just even thinking about that. And I think it's really interesting that Trump will be in power at that time because he does not do things in order. He does not follow the old rules, you know, of ways of doing things. And, you know, whether you like him or not, I think it's a really interesting commentary on why, you know, like why does he is not political in terms of the old school politics. And I think there's been a real almost like thirst for somebody real, some, not to say that he's really real, but you know, somebody who's just not that political, glossed over, this is how we are, you know. Not to say that Kamala wasn't, you know, wasn't real. I thought she was very real and quite an amazing lady. So it's just interesting to notice how this is going to come up in the collective as well. So that's a big one.
I'm excited about it. I mean, I think it's important, and it's so fascinating as we kind of pass through the end of the year and into the beginning of the new year. Even as you're talking, I'm thinking about who's listening, and I'm like, oh, some people are parents, some people are business leaders, some people are, you know, leading a community or a community member, and it's like, can we start to look at that as it rises up and think, okay, I'm releasing perfection. I'm releasing the need to experience perfection in others. There's no perfect people. And can we start shifting to that being part of the consideration for ourselves and others as we move into this energy? You know, I love these heads up.
Yeah, I love it. And the nodes really give an energy for the collective that's very, like, it really influences pop culture as well, like music.
Mm,
I think we're going to see a more of an ethereal flow to music. I think we're going to see the other thing that was predicted as well was the rise of cults and the rise of, more of these spiritual leaders and gurus that people are
okay.
looking to instead of the perfect leader, those people that are
Yeah.
like buttoned up and science is science is science. We're going to be looking more to like, how does this feel? Does this intuitively feel right to you? Are you on the path that's on your heart, on your mission? I was
Yeah.
looking back on the last dates that the North Node was in Pisces, and it was 1969 to 1970, 1987 to 1989, and then 2006 to 2007. So it was interesting because I was getting that kind of intuitive nudge that in the 60s, 70s, that range, this kicked off, I think, that age of the like marijuana and the age of Aquarius, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of that free love and people disengaging from that. You have to do it this way. You have to have a job. You have to go to university. And there was this big rebellion. I was actually watching a documentary on this where it was the rise of marijuana, that people just didn't want to work anymore, didn't want to do things the old way. And what happened was productivity went down. There was, college entrance fee, like everything was like people didn't want to work. There was just this rebellion that was
Yeah.
happening with the youngsters. And so what happened then, there was a rise of cocaine to counter that. Cocaine actually came in that hyper focuses and helps you to like do more in an hour than you could ever do without it. So
Well, I think of like the
it's
Wall Street of the
yes,
80s. And so as
yes,
you're saying it, I'm like, okay, well, in the 60s, 70s, there was that resistance to wars that not everyone agreed with. I'll just say it that way
correct.
because
Yeah,
I wasn't alive
100%.
then.
Yep.
So, and then, like you said, that hyper productivity that, we all, many of us know visions of like that 80s Wall Street time. And it is such a pendulum too.
It is that pendulum. So I think that's Pisces era is going to bring in more of that, like follow your intuition, what feels good to you, that kind of the inner, the God within, more of that
Mhm.
spiritualism coming forward versus that
Well,
doing
and
nature.
just to quickly throw this in there, you mentioned it earlier. I feel like our time goes so fast together.
It does.
This is where I think it's so important what you said earlier, be doubling down on your fact checking. Like, yes, lead with intuition, but also don't just be, following everything someone says because they're charismatic or because whatever, they're warm and fuzzy. Like, be
A hundred
also,
percent.
yeah, using your own discernment.
Because Pisces can also rule like disillusionment as well. Like Neptune is a ruling planet for it. So there can be this like almost rose colored glasses where you look at the world
Mm-hmm.
through. But the North Node is guiding us to our destiny. So it more tends to embody the best parts of the sign. And then discernment is a Virgo word. So we still need discernment. So even with this Aries Virgo axis that we're, or sorry, Aries Libra axis that we're on now, we still need relationships, but we need
Yeah.
to not forget ourselves in the relationship. We still need to be a pioneer and be bold and courageous and take action, but not at the expense and not to like burn every bridge as you go,
Right.
do so. Can you be yourself in relationships? So we want to take the best of the South Node into the North Node. So we want to take the best of Virgo, which is discernment and detail. Like we are doing things, we are getting those details done, but we must be following our intuition. We must be
Mm-hmm.
working from a place of love for humanity versus money or self-righteousness.
Well, this part
So
sounds good. I'm on board with all these
yes.
things. Like,
Well, those
say
are the
more things
best
like that,
words.
Sheetal.
Yeah, yeah. Say more of that stuff, We
Say
get to
more
be
like
part
that.
of that. I think
Oh
especially
yeah.
as spiritual leaders, like this gets to be a time that we get to really shine and help people in a time of, even spiritual healing and the
Mm-hmm.
healing. Pisces also rules healing, what we hide behind the scenes, therapy, prison,
Yeah.
things that are quiet within us that are part of our evolution of our soul. So I
Should we
think there's going to be a rise of that too, the
should we be
healing.
expecting more like, I know we hear about it so much in pop culture, like spiritual awakening. Should we be expecting more people to be interested in intuition, for example, that maybe weren't vibing that previously?
I think that what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of, when we say people are waking up, but really what
Mm-hmm.
that is they've going through a deep grief that what they thought life was is not what life is,
Yeah.
right? So there's a lot of grief. We're going to need a lot of spiritual grief support at that time. And we're also, I think, that grief that's going to be coming up what's the catalyst for that grief? So COVID was a big catalyst because everyone was jarred out of their lives in terms of what they thought it was, working and money and all the things that we think we need. And money, yes, makes the world go round. And when COVID happened, a lot of people had all those things taken away. So there was a lot of, at that time, a lot of people going, what am I here for? What am I doing? Why am I continuing to do a job or live this way? So it was a lovely little pause. So that's why I sort of feel like there's themes of 2020 coming into 2025. We don't know what the catalyst is going to be, but there is this feeling of a reset, of a waking up, as you mentioned, which is a perfect way to say it. So however that reaches you or finds you, it's more so of like, what have you been doing all along that doesn't serve you anymore? And who are you now? Because before COVID, everyone was like, no, this is my life. Yeah. This is my life, questions. Right? And then on February 7th, we have Neptune conjunct the North Node. This only happens every 18 years. So this is 18 years because it comes back around. So Neptune conjunct the North Node in Pisces. Pisces rules Neptune, or Neptune rules Pisces. Both ways work. So this is a deep spiritual alignment and evolution in collective healing. It's a time of compassion, forgiveness, and connecting with higher self. So it's going to bring about, it's sort of a portal opening when two major parts of the astrology come together, and then it creates a cycle that's then going to be an 18-year cycle when it comes back to that sign. So of course Neptune won't be in that sign in 18 years, but there's a sort of a new cycle beginning of compassion, one love, this higher, Neptune represents our spiritual connection, intuition, water as well.
Yeah,
so
unseen things behind the scenes.
Correct.
Things. Yeah.
It can also be disillusionment, thinking something is something that it's not, the fog, not seeing things clearly, confusion. But in a conjunction like this is actually supposed to amplify our intuition. I think this is actually going to open up a lot of people to seeing energy in the world, being aware that there is an energy in this world, not just the 3D. There's actually far more below, the scenes, and it's science, it is science. It's not woo-woo stuff. It is actually science. And then the next major transit will be Mars direct in Cancer on February 23rd. So this is going to be a real, again, focus on family. What are we protecting now? What are we nurturing that we value? And then that's going to then set off a new cycle of purpose and mission, with now having these foundational pieces really in place, if you use that energy right. And then we have Venus retrograde in Aries on March 1st. And this is fiery, right? Venus in Aries she wants to be heard. She wants independence. She's assertive. And this is about reevaluating your desires and personal values in relationships. So that's why there's sort of this theme this year as well in relationships, and potentially relationships falling away. I think a lot of us have seen that over the last few years. And new relationships coming in, as you step into your authority and your energy, where, who's going to find you now? That's people who are in their authority and their energy. And then now we have eclipses starting in that Virgo Pisces axis, right? Okay. So we have on March 14th, our first full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. And this is really going to bring up issues around health, service, and routine. It's a time of releasing old habits and adopting a more mindful, grounded approach. So that Virgo part of the nodes as well really is going to bring our awareness to our physical health, because Virgo rules the 6th house of our physical health. And then the 12th house of Pisces is about our spiritual health, our mental health. So this axis does deal with health as well. So this North Node is going to bring up ways that maybe you can live a healthier lifestyle. Where are you letting some of the details slip that you can bring in more of an organized structure, routine around going to the gym in the morning, or going for a walk after dinner, or just these little things that you can start to do more for yourself.
That's what you said earlier. Like, why are you doing it or not doing it that way? Is that still working for you? Is that the one way you want to be creating it going forward? Are there other options? It sounds like we're dialing in a lot of that potentially during this time.
Yeah, really just taking care of yourself and deciding like what kind of life do you truly want to live. And I guess that's really open to you at any time. But I think the energy is going to really be presenting now more so for the collective.
I mean, ride that wave, right? If there's going to be a big wave that we can harness to like really give us some momentum or some clarity. I think like, yeah, like you said, we could do it at any time, but like if the energy's set up for it, why not ride that current, right?
Yeah. Not just on January 1st when it's, dry, January or whatever. And then we have our first Mercury retrograde of the year in Aries, a fire sign. So there's going to be delays and miscommunication, and especially in projects that require bold moves. So it's a time to reconsider impulsive decisions or any decisions around that time. So March 15th, that Aries energy again is initiatory, mission driven. Where are we bold, creative, starting something new in our life? So this Mercury is asking you to reconsider how you're starting that. What are the steps needed? Do you have the motivation? So this would be a really good time to, any things that you decided you wanted to go to the gym or you wanted to do this, it's going to help you to recreate better situations or the better, I'm thinking of making it a better place, like creating, oh my gosh, this brain fog is real. Optimal conditions. That's the word I'm looking for. Optimal conditions for your new habits to create. And then we have Venus going retrograde in March as well. March is going to be a very full month of retrogrades. Okay. So when we have Venus retrograding back into Pisces. So Venus retrograded into Aries on the 1st and now moving back now into Pisces. And that Pisces Venus now is about that spirituality, unresolved issues around compassion, idealism in relationships, and encouraging forgiveness and understanding. So that whole, can we move into a neutral soul contract versus feeling that somebody owes somebody something, in this? Can we really heal from this, whatever this is? And of course, Venus is going to retrograde into Pisces just as we have the new moon solar eclipse in Aries on March 29th. So another eclipse, right? They always come in pairs. Yes. This one is still in Aries because it's just the way that the nodes are working out. It's just finishing up. It's the last one in Aries. And I feel like this is actually a bit of a gift because if it was in Pisces, there would be a little bit more polarity. The Aries energy is bringing in an opportunity for bold new beginnings, and particularly in the areas of self-assertion, independence, and leadership. So this is a great time, not with all the retrograde, but really to think about what is your footprint? What do you want to leave on this planet? What's your legacy that you want to really be known for? If this was your last day on earth, what would you want someone to say about you in your eulogy? And are you living that truth now? I think that's going to really come up during that time. And then we have Neptune entering Aries on March 30th. So Neptune has been in Pisces where it rules for quite some time, right? It's been sitting there and it's very watery. Neptune in Aries energy is the beginning of a new era of spiritual exploration through individuality, courage, and innovation. So I really think it's going to bring us some interesting downloads about technology moving forward in new ways, pioneering energy as well.
Okay.
So there, March is full, and it's full of a lot of retrogrades, these eclipses, and it's all, it's really interesting. It's like Aries, Pisces energy in there, which is Pisces is endings and Aries is beginnings. And so March, I think, is going to be a very packed, especially because Mars is now direct, in March. So we're going to have March is, I think, going to feel like the new year when I think about the energy.
March does sound really packed. And I mean, I guess, like you said, that's why the beginning of the year is a great time to be really thinking about, yourself and all the things and getting your house in order, so to speak, metaphorically and realistically, just so that when all this hits, it's like, okay, I've got some things already, understood within myself or at least available to understand.
Mm-hmm. And March technically is the astrological new year. The sun enters Aries on March 20th. So we consider that our new year. And when you think about it energetically, our ancestors back before the time of religion, when we followed cycles of the stars and moon, we actually celebrated March 1st or March 20th, like the sun moving into Aries as our new year. So it wasn't January 1st as the Gregorian calendar created. This is the astrological new year. So March is going to bring some endings, some beginnings in there too. And, I'll be celebrating the new year at that time. So join in with me.
Yeah. So if your New Year's was lackluster,
Yeah.
full
Wait, we get
permission
to do it again. I
Yeah.
do. I always do. I almost kind of been doing a vision board now starting in March versus January,
Oh, that's
or
interesting.
doing a vision board this year. I did one in January, and then I added to it and shifted things around in March because I felt
Okay.
like I knew more then. I felt like that was more of the energy of it because we started this year with a Mercury retrograde. So again, the mind
Yeah.
just wasn't in that forward momentum. It was still in review mode. So, April of 2025, we have Mercury going direct in Pisces on April 7th. And again, there's that more Pisces energy coming up, and then Venus goes direct in Pisces on April 12th. So there's, any confusion around relationships, again, and all of these Piscean themes: forgiveness, compassion, deep connection, intuition, emotions. Those are all Piscean words. So we're going to have a lot of insights coming forward now, because retrograde, what that means is those planets are going slower than the Earth. So we are then, if you look at it in the sky, it almost looks like they're going backwards, but they're not. Just mathematically, they're going backwards. So we call it retrograde. And when a planet is in retrograde, it is a time for us to take a breather, because we are just so driven for productivity, forward momentum. So these retrograde planets, Mercury is our mind, so about reassessing, reviewing, realigning what we're thinking about, what we're dreaming about, what we've been talking about, writing about. And then Venus is about relationships and values, the things that we really want in our lives. So that's money, beauty, aesthetics, the things that we value, our stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so when Venus goes direct in Pisces, it's really that, like, what do you really want in your life that actually matters on a soul level, right? It's not all this stuff, because when you die, one of the things I've been noticing with all the fires, happening in California, and then the floods that have been happening around the world, things are gone in a minute, right? You only have your life, if that. And you always hear when they're interviewing them, like, I lost my house, but at least I'm alive. I lost all my stuff, but at least I'm alive. So when you go, you can't take it with you, and all this stuff, what are you working so hard for? All this money, is it really what you value, or do you value less? Like, I know you've moved, in the last few years, and moving is a trip, man. Like, you're clearing out all the stuff that you've accumulated over years, and you're like, all of that, it was money, right? So what are we spending on?
Well, we have relationships. I always like to think, like, expand the relationship department, I guess, and think like, oh, we have relationships with so many things: money and food and time and people, of course, and ourselves. So it sounds like it's a big, I see why you're saying it's a big year.
Yeah,
I can see it already.
There's a lot of themes, and we're only in April, right?
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Then we have, this is a big one, is Saturn is conjunct the North Node in Pisces. This only happens again Saturn takes 27 years, but the nodes go around every 18 years. So this happens about every 18 years or so. So Saturn is about structure, duty, responsibility, but it can also be scarcity. It is also kind of doing things the right way. Are you taking responsibility for what you came here to do and be? And
not
the
in
North
a perfect way.
Not in a perfect way, but more, not in Pisces, it isn't. Maybe in Virgo, but not in Pisces. Pisces is about karmic lessons, responsibilities related to spiritual growth, compassion, and healing. So this is really about being really compassionate and taking responsibility for those that are in lesser positions, that are in more vulnerable positions, those that might be kicked out. So this might be a wonderful time of litigation, I think, for people, like, trying to support and protect the dreamers, those that are in the country that we're trying to find a better life, and understanding why, and supporting that. There's Saturn is also like structure and mentors and people in power. So there could be then people in power called to support those less fortunate as well. This could be a very compassionate placement.
And this is all that outer wheel that you're talking about that's going to be clicking into this big shift with all these planets. So, I mean, I think a big part of that too can be advocating for individuals, for the earth itself, for the resources that we have or don't have, especially those limited ones, and how we're going to be allocating them, I guess, Pisces, for the collective going forward.
And Saturn is those who have responsibility, those who have power and authority to then speak for those who don't have power and authority. So disabled folks, people of not, who are considered marginalized or less privileged. So, that Pisces compassion and the Aquarius energy that Pluto is going to be bringing in as well. We haven't even talked about Pluto yet. Pluto is that there's other things coming for Pluto later in the year, but that Pluto energy of Aquarius is about like Medicare for all of us, rising together, right? Taking everybody on that journey. So I think that Pluto in those beginning degrees of Aquarius is going to heighten that Pisces energy of we need to make sure that we're all okay. And I think coming into this spiritual age, the Pisces age also, what rules Pisces is Pisces rules, drugs. And altered states of being. So I think even with the crisis that we've been seeing, the mental health crisis, and some other Pisces theme, and maybe putting structure around litigation on that, or controls around those things, or maybe even sanctioning more. There's here in Canada, there's a huge movement for healing PTSD by using substances that create altered states. So ketamine, MDMA.
We're working on all that here too.
Yes, but under the supervision of a psychologist.
Yes.
So, and I have actually clients and friends who are doing that work, and it is profound.
Yeah.
So I think that is going to help with the mental health. Those are some of the things that on the positive side are going to come about, I think, with Pisces North Node.
Okay, that feels positive.
Yes, it's all positive, Joy.
Yeah, no, it's all
There's nothing
positive.
to be scared about. There's nothing to be scared about.
That quote that rings in my head, I think throughout every year, I don't even know who said it, all growth happens outside the comfort zone. So
Correct.
Like, as humans, our nature is to want to get comfy and understand our surroundings and the zone. And it's just, we need change clearly in a lot of areas. So we might gonna have to get a little bit uncomfortable in some of these areas to allow this change, to come through.
Growth is inherently uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? The brain seeks the same, right? It does not seek change. It just wants to know where everything is. You go to bed in the morning, brush your teeth, go to work, come home. The brain likes that. It likes certainty. And growth is uncertainty, right? And growth actually comes from your spirit, because your spirit knows the way. It's always nudging you to grow. It's going, take that trip, say yes to that person, go here, take a different route. Your brain, if it had its way, would just continue to keep you in the same loop. And your soul did not come here to stay in the same loop. So the universe will push you out of your comfort zone. And if you don't take the yes, you don't say yes first, the universe will push you harder and harder and harder until it pushes you out of the nest. So, and I think COVID was a bit of a push out of the nest for many people. And some people took it and flew, and just like was so excited and changed lives and changed careers and changed the way they felt about things, went to therapy. And then there was people that just went back to doing what they were doing. And I think those are the people who are really struggling in this moment too, because life isn't the same. Things have fundamentally shifted on a collective level, right? But if you're not on board with that, then you're trying to cling to something that is trying to fall away. So we have Jupiter square the North Node. That doesn't happen very often on May 18th. And it's actually a really great opportunity to reevaluate our growth path, and particularly around beliefs and long-term goals. So Jupiter is a benefactor. It's considered a really great planet. It's expansion, optimism, and good luck. So that's not... in terms of scary, it's not scary at all. Actually, none of them are scary, but it's a very expansive option. So May 18th or in May there, that middle of May, it'll be a great time to really pay attention to what is expanding, what opportunities are being handed to you for your growth. And, there's like, I keep feeling like somebody who's listening to this podcast is going to be like given an opportunity to like travel or take a promotion or, meet somebody new and say yes to some opportunities. So just being aware in that middle belt of May of like what's presenting, and if it feels scary, but yet safe, safe in terms of like, you're not going to die, and some truly die, then, what, maybe say yes and see what happens, again, with discernment, right? Always with discernment. And then we have Jupiter entering Cancer on June 9th. 2025. So in June, Jupiter changes sign every year. So 12 years to go around the zodiac, 1 year in each sign. But he moved pretty quickly through Gemini. Cancer is about expanding the focus on home, family, and emotional security. And it's a time of growth through nurturing connections. Now, Cancerians inherently, there's always a theme with females and the mother. So when Jupiter is in Cancer, I think we're gonna really see a lot of expansion around healing the mother wound and the mother within us as well. And so if there's in my community, there's quite a few that have had very challenging relationships with mother. And mother is one of those soul contracts that is like very, very strong. We, as children, come to teach our mothers and fathers too. And we are inherently our mother's biggest life lessons come from our children. So there's going to be a lot of that kind of energy coming in also around the home, nurturing. And I feel like Jupiter in Cancer is going to be like intuition for the collective is just going to, I'm so excited because everyone's like, oh, I'm not psychic, or I don't have any intuition. I feel like that's going to be a boom time of people like wanting to know more about what this is, because it's just tapping into the energy. You know, I see it as two ways. One is there's an energetic field that is operating underneath all of this physical stuff that we just can't see, but we can feel it on an energetic level. Mm-hmm. And then the second side of that is the psychological. It's all the subconscious, right? So the subconscious is picking up everything in your awareness, and about 80 to 90% is being kind of put into your subconscious. You can't become aware of everything around you. Otherwise you never go anywhere, right?
Implode. Yeah.
Right. So that subconscious is always filtering. And I think we're also seeing a huge rise, you know, in the diagnosis of ADHD, neurodivergence, autism. Yes. And that is actually a genius superpower, because they can filter through so much information so quickly that's how they know what they know. They don't know why they know it. They just know it. And that can be because the subconscious has filtered it and they just know. So isn't that intuition as well? Right? Yeah. So whether it's from the psychic or from the subconscious, either which way, you're still getting, you know, I don't care where it's from. It's super cool and it gets you places, and you know things and you pick up on patterns, or even sometimes you don't even know why you know that because you've never met that person, but you just know exactly what's happening. So maybe you recognize things within them. You know, there's a lot of science for intuition being actually the subconscious just filtering through so much information. But either which way, I think there's going to be more with Jupiter in Cancer. And then we end off the month with Jupiter square Neptune. And this is going to be a very blurry, idealistic time. And it's a time where, you know, almost like you think of just ethereal, like you're swimming in a soup of water. Like it's all water. Neptune's in water, and Jupiter, well, Neptune has moved into, I think we said that, right? Trying to keep all the planets correct. Yeah, Neptune has moved into Aries, but Neptune is still the energy of intuition, spiritual exploration. And then we've got that Jupiter in Cancer, which is nurturing intuition. It's a water sign. So when we have those two, Neptune rules water signs as well. We have technically rules Pisces. We have this blurring of boundaries, and energy is very permeable during that time. So we really want to make sure in June, especially towards the end of June, where school is kind of finishing up here in North America, of having some boundaries of not saying yes to everything. And then being really cautious about escapism during that time too, of drugs, alcohol, wanting to cope with, you know, other ways, Netflix and chill. But rather than really facing what's coming and being, you know, hands on and feet on the ground sort of thing. So grounding during that month of June is going to be very, very important, and not making any big decisions, I think, especially around that 17, 18, 19, 20th mark of June. There's just not enough clarity that's going to come. It's just going to feel so idealistic that everything feels perfect and I can do it and it's fine and I'll take it all on. And then you're going to find out later in the year you can't do it all. So being really discerning with your yes. I would even actually caution anyone to say yes during the month of June.
Okay, so just mark your calendars to like
say no.
take some extra thinking time and give yourself some space and graciousness, I guess.
Yeah, and even bounce ideas off of other people. And I would say it's also a really cautious time with your money as well, and who you trust, because that Neptune in Aries can feel like this is a great deal and this is a fantastic stock and you should jump on it, and then tanks, so just being really discerning with where you give, who you give your money to, where you are investing trust at that time too.
I think that's always good advice too.
Always good advice.
And intuition is a funny thing. It's like we might have, just same as astrology, we might have a feeling or knowing about something, but we might not know exactly where it's going to show up or how it's going to roll out. So giving a little bit of time, like we were talking about, to just assess the situation or just wait and see, I think can be so powerful, because we can't always predict the way something's going to show up, but we might know something's funny here, or, oh, I know that this energy is about letting go of perfectionism and moving into more of my spiritual side and my true path. And this is new. Let me just take some baby steps here, or not put on my perfectionist Virgo hat and feel like I need to just rush right in, charge in ahead of time before the time is right, I guess is what I want to say.
Yeah, I think what is meant for you will always find you. Yeah. So if there's a fear of like, oh, if I don't do this now, when am I going to, or is this going to happen for me? Or, this is a great deal. Again, what's meant for you will find you. And it's just a very important time to be very discerning with the things that you value, because it's there. I just feel like that's a lot of shyster energy around this. This 18th of June is just being really cautious with what you say yes to and who you trust. If they haven't been around for a while, or they're saying that they're promising all these things, then just wait a little bit. And if they're like, it's an exploding offer, you don't do it now, it's going to be gone. I always love to say to those people that I guess it wasn't for me.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hate the pressure. Like, that's not really honoring your cycle of like, what is a true decision for you? What's a true yes for you? Because you really shouldn't be making a decision, especially, I also am a human design reader, but in human design, I have an emotional authority. So if I'm excited about something and the emotional waves are moving through, I shouldn't be saying yes, because I'm not saying yes with the part of me that truly knows that this is a fit for me. So just even noticing, it should be neutral when you say yes, because you're like, no, this makes sense for me in all the ways around. I vetted this. I know I can afford it. I have the time for it. It fits into my calendar in this way. Then that's a yes. I had to learn that, I only learned that this last year. So please learn from me.
Yeah, that's where that being grounded is so important, right? And because sometimes we can have an emotional, energetic charge about something that we don't even realize, oh, this is triggering something totally different. This is not triggering my spidey sense of best opportunity, must rush now. It's something else that I'm maybe healing and don't realize. So it's going to be a really profound, at least first half of the year, for 100%. Expansion and healing. And are we going to see the same? I mean, same is probably not the right word, but are we going to see maybe an equal degree of truth coming to light that we've seen in 2024 as part of this, do you think?
Truth coming to light. I feel like this is very shifting energy. So when the sands are shifting, they tend to reveal what's been underneath. I almost sort of saw like this sort of the sands of time. I almost saw like the desert, and then
that's what I'm seeing when you're saying that.
The revealing the Sphinx all of a sudden. So I actually feel like we're going to be moving back to a time where I feel like we were more trusting of ourselves, of nature, of seeing that we are part of nature. There's a huge movement now in terms of, saving the earth and soil quality and, the warming of the planet as well. And I think there's a lot of forces right now that are not liking that because they can't capitalize on that. Yeah. But there are also people coming forward with technologies and things like that. It's, that's part of Pluto and Aquarius, is bringing technologies to the forefront that are groundbreaking, that are going to help us to heal things faster as well. I mean, I believe in the goodness of humanity. So will truth come to light? I think Pisces energy would say not so much, because it's very idealistic. There's a very, foggy rose-colored glass quality around it. Is it the sign of truth? I wouldn't say that's known for that. Virgo is a sign of truth. It says it like it is. Sagittarius says it like it is, but also can be very idealistic too. So I think this is more so of the truth within you, and does it resonate on a level? I think, when we're talking about, especially on, spiritual topics and things that we've talked about in the past with spirit and energy and healers and all those things and all the beautiful topics you talk about on your podcast, there's a level of truth and spiritual curiosity of trying on those topics and seeing how they work. Like, I recently heard someone say that authenticity is a higher vibration than love. And I'm like, I think you need love to have authenticity. Like, you can't have one without the
as
other.
you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, that's no.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I was at a conference. I agree with you, Joy. I was at a conference and they're like, you know what? Love is not the highest vibration. Authenticity is. And I'm like, does anyone else believe that? That does not feel true to me. And people are like, oh, yeah, wow, that's profound. I'm like, it's only profound because it's a lie. Like, what? Like, is it true?
Yeah.
You need authenticity to have love. Like, can you have love without authenticity? I don't think so. Are they of the same vibration? I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, we can talk for probably a whole another hour about this, but I feel like love to me is a constant and authenticity is moving, is the way I'm feeling it in the energy. What's authentic for me now might be different in a year from now.
Mm-hmm. But to be your true authentic self in a space requires safety, and it does require love, right? I can't be I'll be my authentic self anywhere, but if I feel like, I did recently go to a conference earlier this year where they were very anti something, I'll say, and I did not feel safe to share anything about myself in that conference, but other than there was a lot of grief there. And so I was just like, tell me about this grief. Where does it come from? Why are you holding it? Where is it coming from in your life? Let's like get to the bottom of this grief. But there was this staunch belief of like, I have to hold on to this because I'm scared if I let go of it, who will I be? So it's been really interesting to notice that, like, that concept was said by one of the keynote speakers, that authenticity is the highest vibration. And I was like, no. And everybody just ate it up, and I'm like, okay, this is this Neptunian energy of like, these gurus coming forward and saying, this is what I believe to be true. Or this is the truth, not I believe to be. He said, this is the truth. Authenticity is the highest vibration. And I was like, I don't think so. Love is it's not, my spirit isn't full of authenticity. My spirit is full of love, right? Love is our highest connection point, and authenticity is one of the rungs to get to love.
That's such a great example for like a heads up of what to kind of, because everyone is in some kind of meeting or talk, or we're watching things, and it can, in our emotion, be easy is maybe not the right word, but it can feel like we get swept into that current of like, yes, and the emotions are moving, and we get to still sit with things, and I get to ask our own spirit or soul or whatever our, belief system is too.
And feel what's true for you. Like, I've just been sitting with that thought of, I brought it up in my membership the other day, and I said, what do we think about this? And everyone's like, well, you need love to have authenticity. And I was like, hang on. So that is just an example of these gurus. Like, and I started off our talk with that too, this Vedic astrology piece of like, everyone's saying that Pluto's in Aquarius, but here's a snapshot of where Pluto really is. It's in 5 degrees of Capricorn. I'm like, if you're following the Vedic system, yes, that is. And I know that because that is my profession. I've had to go to school for that. Like, I understand the Vedic cusp system versus the Western cusp system, and I understand the differences between them. And so I actually spoke truth to power in that. And I actually put in a whole post on what the Vedic system is, what Western astrology. Neither is more correct than the other, but actually Pluto is in Aquarius in the Western system. And again, if you don't believe me, just ask an Aquarian or a Capricorn, late degree Capricorn, right? And then it was like,
I got on both ends. So for me.
I got over 100 likes and a number of people DMing me saying, thank you for saying that, because I didn't believe her post was correct. So I think we're seeing a lot of these rise of the influencers, or people trying to make their mark or be sensational in some way to just kind of get that, and you don't know. If you don't know anything about astrology, you might think this is pretty interesting. Wow, this person has a lot to say, because she was very convincing and she had all the diagrams behind her and she was pointing to all the things. And I'm like, girl,
authority.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's this Neptunian and Piscean energy is
okay, that's good to know.
Aries and Pisces is like the authority that's saying, I've got all the things, but is it really true? So we definitely need
Yeah.
that fact checking. And I think we're going to really need discernment in the coming year for
Well,
sure.
on the other side of that coin, I guess, is what you've been saying in this time together is building that relationship with your own intuition. I feel very strongly about this, as I think, like
Yes.
relationship with our intuition, not a light switch. So for anyone who's wanting to like expand their intuition and have more understanding of themselves and the world and spirit and kind of play in all this energy, it's not a just like you sign your name and then boom, it's all on. It's a relationship building, and that's what's available to us, it sounds like, as part of all of this shifting energy.
Yeah, it's a strengthening of the muscle, right? The
Yeah.
more you trust, and I think this is the byproduct. I always say intuition is a vehicle to healing your connection to self, right? Because the more you trust yourself, the more you become Teflon for all these external, influences and people telling
Yeah.
you what's right and what's wrong. So yeah, it's funny how many people DM me. If you think a post sounds weird, DM me on Instagram and I'll tell you if it's shit or not, because I get that all the time from people on my feed of like, does this make sense? Is this real? Like, I had someone send me a post that you can this astrologer guy. He's not an astrologer. He was saying you can tell a man's penis size according to his Mars placement.
Hmm.
I was like, you can't. I looked up all the men on my list. I was like, no, there's no way.
I love you
That
so
is
much.
totally lie. It's like, and I had a follower send it to me. Is this real? I'm like, absolute bullshit. And she's like, I thought
Yeah.
so. I thought so.
That's
So
funny.
yeah, very interesting. I mean, it gives me,
Yeah.
in like material for this stuff kind of, because I
Yeah.
get to be like, what? Who thinks this stuff up? Like, I
Yeah.
don't, that's not, that's new. That's somebody thinking,
Well,
well,
that's a great point, because if there is a leader or a teacher or a person that anyone is interested in looking to as someone to get information from, like kind of look at all the things they're saying and like were they saying a year ago and what were they saying, like, yeah, just more information, I guess, is better in this case.
yeah, and I think even like send it to you, and you can be like, well, here's some things to consider, or I don't know about
Yes.
this,
I
just like
mean, you and I could
filter
go
it.
rounds about this with like the spirit world stuff and what people say, and that people's loved ones are stuck somewhere, and oh, it makes me,
Purgatory and a curse, and you have to pay to
yes,
get them out, and all of
yeah,
that BS stuff. Yeah, I think, as psychics as well, we see so many fraudulent scammers out there, and so there's
yeah,
a lot of discernment needed. We're inherently in an unregulated industry, and yet
yeah,
people come to us on the spiritual side of healing and for support when they really have exhausted all those other things that are regulated. So we are in a
yeah.
vulnerable place with people, and I take that so seriously.
Yeah.
I'm a
Well,
fierce
I
champion.
kind of been seeing more and more things that I thought were pretty locked in stone, like the way things work or the rules or the checks and balances. I've seen fraudulent behavior across every single field,
It's
from
true.
like doctors to financial advisors. Like, it's not just our field. So
Yeah, it's so
it's
true.
just fascinating. So yeah, make sure that you're finding the people that are for you, and not following the people that aren't, I guess.
Asking for references or referrals,
Hmm.
the asking in your groups of people, do you have a referral? Like I don't have any bookings available now until March. And so if someone's coming to me with urgent, I have people I can refer out that I really trust in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, go to the people you trust, and if they can't see you, then they'll have referrals to people that they trust.
Yeah.
Like,
Most
so
of us have a
really,
short list. Yeah. Of people that,
yes.
like, these are the ones that I know for
For
sure.
sure, we'll treat you
So,
well. Yeah,
yeah,
100%, and that
exactly.
that are
Exactly.
ethical in their dealings. So yeah,
Yeah.
discernment, I think, is really the name of the game with all this watery energy and Piscean stuff coming into the rise of the cult leader, those people that are trying to gather their following and their flock. It's yeah, we're truth. Let's speak truth to that.
I keep feeling this, I don't know, this undercurrent energy and this repetitive sentence in my mind that keeps saying, just follow the money. Just follow
Oh
the money.
yes,
Just follow the money for this year.
yes,
Like, you want to know something or like have insight, just follow the money.
yeah,
So I
so
think
true
that's true across the board.
across
And
the board. Yeah.
yeah, We can't necessarily know someone's intention truly until it's displayed into the world. And even then, sometimes not. But yeah, through these things, through our own intuition, through discernment, following the money, and getting more clear, like you've said, about what's our path actually as an individual.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I mean, you're going to know because I feel again that intuition piece is going to pull you in this direction, or you're going to feel this call to support in some way, or you're just going to see a need and you want to fill that need in some, maybe that's with the Humane Society in your area, or
Yeah.
sending money to, children of Gaza, or, something else humanitarian that is needed in the world. And it's going to pull
Yeah.
on your heartstrings. And I'm going to just invite with all this Piscean energy to not look away, to not be like, oh, thank God it's not happening to me. The question really is, how can I help? What's one small thing I could do? So maybe that's dropping off some hats to the centers, around you that to house the homeless, or dropping
Yeah.
off some food to the food bank, or making a donation to something if you are able to, any little thing helps. So I think that
Yeah.
humanitarian flavor is going to really be amped up. We're one for all and all for one.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. Also, you have a place where people can come in your ongoing membership that if they are wanting a little more support and a little more, will you tell us about the MIA
Academy. I
program,
have,
Academy?
yeah, I created it actually 3 years ago. It's been such a dream come true. It's
We've
called
talked about
MIA
it here
Academy.
before.
Yeah, I think we have. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Manifestation, Intuition, and Astrology Academy. And it's really going MIA from the 3D world and dropping into your soul. And each week you get a video that's pre-recorded. It's under 10 minutes. So you get to do an exercise. Like the very first one is setting an intention. So you just set your intention for the day, you set it, forget it, you come back at the end of the day and see how your day followed it. So, these little
Yeah.
psychic things that we do. So you're honing your intuition and manifestation skills throughout the year. And then we have monthly classes where you get to strengthen your intuition skills with me live, and I get to coach you. And then I have a Q&A. And then there's little bonuses and stuff throughout the year of master classes. We have a vision board workshop coming up at the beginning of 2025. And I do have an astrology for 2025 workshop as part of that too. So yeah, it's been a lovely place to cultivate community. These women come together to share, and you often hear, I always thought I was weird, and I was like, what is weird? Weird is
Yeah.
normal here. We talk to the dead. I mean, the group isn't. There are some mediums in the group, but it's more for intuition and manifestation and strengthening those muscles, and then following the flow of the astrology. So I always give them a very specialized report for them, so they get that
Cool.
in the community of what's to come and how to use the energy, opportunities, and shadows for each transit of the month as well. So it's just a safe space to land and to be your true self. And if anything, the ladies always support each other. It's such a great community. If someone's going through something, they'll share, and then like insights will come in and stuff too. So it's a wonderful community that is ongoing. We are going to be opening the doors again in December, and then we open doors throughout the year every quarter. So thank you for letting
We
me
will
share.
have I appreciate you sharing. We'll have your website, sheetalstory.com, and all your socials linked. I always love seeing your social and seeing, you can see other people who have liked. And I always see people that I know personally, either clients or students. And I'm like, oh, they're finding Sheetal. Like, I love that crossover and how that web works. And it's my favorite that we get to shine our little candles for all the other weirdos, because it's like, no, come on over. Like it's my favorite when a client or student is like, this is gonna sound weird, and I always say I doubt it, but
no,
let's go.
Nothing sounds weird. Nothing sounds weird. We can talk about aliens, we can talk about energy, we can talk about all the things. This is the place to do it, and it's all interesting, right? I mean, they're all concepts and potentials, and we just get to talk about it, and it's a great place for it. You're never going to be looked at as weird here.
Well, I so appreciate you being here as a lantern on our path as we kind of stumble towards the new year, and just have this as a little bit of something to hang on to for hope and for wisdom, and something to focus on that feels positive, because I'm just personally, as just a little human over here, not always finding a ton of that. So I love that we can create it ourselves. And you really have a very special place in my heart and in my community. So I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you. And you have a special place of my heart too. I just love you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for shining your light. Well, as you probably know by now, I could talk to some of our guests for the whole day and really just pick their brain and ask them questions. But from this episode, I'm really feeling ready and kind of a little more set up for what to expect with the energy of 2025. I gotta be honest, and you probably could hear it in the beginning of the episode, I've been a little unsettled about what to expect in this new year. The truth is we never know exactly what to expect. We never know how any of these energies are going to show up or roll out. We can have a bit of heads up on, kind of like we do the weekly energy report and potentials with the cards, right? But we're never going to know exactly all the things to expect. That's just not the way our human experience works. But I have been a little bit scared is maybe not the right word. Concerned has been in there for me, and uncertain, and just feeling not as motivated as I normally am. But really, I hope this episode helped you as much as it helped me. I'm feeling just a little more settled in the energy, settled in understanding that there is something more grand happening than just what we are experiencing in our human experience through what we see in this 3D world happening. I think most of us know that in our core, but sometimes the energy in this world gets really loud, and there are some real tough things that happen in our world. So let me know if you found this as comforting as I did. And again, I'm so grateful to Sheetal for being here with us. And if you've been following the pod for a while, you know she's here with us every 6 months since the beginning, giving all of us her wisdom and time, and really just sharing with us. Many of you have followed her. I follow her on social media. And so I see when you guys like her posts and things, some of you. So I love seeing you over there. Again, everything of hers is going to be linked in the show notes. And I'm so excited to continue to share this energy and move ourselves forward together in community into 2025. Big hugs, lots of love. Bye for now.